Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Natalia. I'm so happy to have you here and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we're going to be talking all about money. There's some things that I wish I knew about money before becoming an adult. And then there's healthy habits that I have learned along the way that can definitely help you with whatever your money goals are, just having a better mindset around money. So let's get started. And this may be broken up into two parts. I may need to film a second part depending on how long this video is and how the conversation goes, because I know there's a lot that can be said and a lot of different opinions. So let's start with some of the healthy habits that I've learned about money along the way. First being to make sure to save and save with a purpose. And this is very important because a lot of us are told about having savings and making sure to save some of our money. And I think that is so important. And I highly encourage you to make sure to save every paycheck, every week, whatever it is, make sure to put a little bit aside. That way, over time, it does accumulate and you can end up having more money than you realize just by putting some aside. But make sure, along with saving, to save with a purpose. So I was one that I saved and I kind of had an idea like, oh, I want this or I want that, but I didn't have my savings directly related to something. And I regret that because what happened was I had saved a few $1,000s over time and I was so proud of myself and I can't even recall where that went. So making sure to save with a purpose, whether you're saving for a house, or you're saving for a car, you're saving to go on a trip, whatever it is, making sure that you have that labeled and you know exactly where your money is going. Because if you don't, that money is going to go away from you very quickly. And before you realize it, whatever it is that you may want, you won't have the money for it. So make sure that as you're saving, to save with a goal, with a purpose, and have that clearly written on wherever it is that you save. Whether it's within an account on your bank, name it somehow. Wherever you keep track of your money, have the savings account named for what it is. So that way you can have that clear in mind as you're saving and eventually when you end up spending it on what it is that you had put it aside for. So that kind of goes along with my number 2 point, which is to have different savings. So it's so important because there are lots of things in life and a lot of things that we may want or we may need. So to have them clear in mind, as was stated, but also to make sure to have different savings at once. That way you're making sure you're working towards all of your goals. So it is that you're saving for, having different savings, and as they are separated, whether they are envelopes in your home, whether they are in your bank, having them named differently, that way you don't get it confused and it's not just one savings account that you forget how much is dedicated to that one thing. So you don't want to be saving for your house and your car all in one account, because what's going to happen is it's going to be easier to forget how much is set aside just for the house or how much is set aside just for your car. And when it comes time to buy either of those things, putting a down payment or whatever it is, you are not going to know how much you have for that, or you may spend from the other amount that you're saving from. So that's why it's so important to have different kinds of savings and have them clearly marked, but also have different savings to work towards multiple goals when it comes to money at once. Time and money go hand in hand. I love the thought of compound effect. You know, I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with compound interest and how it can be a negative thing. If you accumulate interest over time, it ends up being debt. But compounding can be very positive when it comes to savings. And that's because, using a small example, let's just say you save $100 each month. So that can be $50 each paycheck if you get paid twice a month. That can be, if you get paid once a month, $100 that one paycheck. If you get paid weekly, that can be $25 each week, right? So either way, somehow you save $100 a month. What's going to happen after 12 months, after 1 year? You're going to have $1,200. $1,200, while compared to millions and billions, that doesn't seem like a lot. That amount can go towards something productive, whether it's your trip, your car, or your house. And that is just saving $100 a month, which is so doable. But even if you can't set aside that much, setting aside however much you can is so important, because as the compound effect states, it's going to accumulate over time. So having different savings and putting a little bit aside in each is going to help you, because by the end of 5 years and by the end of 10 years, you're going to have more than you realize for each of those goals, and you're going to be that much closer to getting each of those goals. And I think a very key point in making sure to have our savings clear in mind and having it set aside is to have a budget. So it's so important to be budgeting your income and your expenses, because what can happen is we may be spending more on expenses than we actually are receiving on income. And that is a big no-no. That leads to debt. And debt puts so much weight on you financially, mentally, emotionally. Years later, you're going to have so much debt that you still have to pay off that you're not going to realize, or that's going to be affecting you later when you want to be spending your money on something else, and instead you have to pay it back. So I like to avoid debt as much as possible. And if you can't avoid it altogether, so keeping your debt to a minimum is so important. So something I find so important, and I don't think it's talked about a lot, but to spend what you have, whether in your bank account or in cash that you have to spend. We don't want to be spending what we don't have. And I think credit can give an illusion of having more money than we actually do, because let's say we have a credit card with $1,000 limit. So you think you have $1,000 extra to be spending on whatever it is that you want, but really that is money that you're borrowing or you'll end up having to pay later. And so if you don't have that money in your bank, don't spend it. Even if you have a credit limit higher than what you can spend, do not use your credit card for that. That is like number one tip of all of money, and to help you with your credit over time, making sure to only spend what you have in your bank and what you're able to pay off by the end of the month. So keeping a budget will help you to know how much that is, and then making sure mentally to limit your credit amount in your mind. Even though the credit card company is allowing you more money, within your mind, know that I can only go over this much. So that way it helps your credit score, it helps your keeping your debt to a minimum, and it helps you to practice good money habits. And that's just because people can get bankrupt and go broke real quick if they're spending money that they don't have. Giving more than what you have to give is just gonna end up leaving you extra empty and burned out later. And that can happen financially if you spend more than you actually have. So being realistic with your budget, realistic with your credit card, knowing how much you can spend, staying within those parameters. And just talking along the lines of credit is a game. And I was told this by my mom. Shout out to her for teaching me this, and also for learning from Dave Ramsey. Credit card companies, they want you in debt and they want you to spend more than you have, because they realize that that's how they make their money. When you spend more than you have and you max out your credit card, or you're unable to pay off whatever it is that you did put on your credit card by the end of the month, the interest that is going to be owed is going to be so much more times more, and especially over time if you're constantly not paying it off. So let's say, for example, here is just an example, you spend $100 and you don't pay that off by the end of the month. So your interest rate is 29%, which, just saying, sounds really ridiculous, but a lot of interest rates for credit cards are that high. So your interest rate is 29%. What does that mean? That means that at the end of that month, if you don't pay off that $100, you're gonna owe them $129. And you end up paying the minimum, which is usually around $25-ish, let's just say for this example. So you pay $25 and that gets you down to $104. That is still more than you spent. You still are owing more than you spent. And then at the end of that next month, with the $104, let's say that you don't pay that part off, now you have to pay 29% of that. That is insane. How much money we are owing more than we are actually spending. And that's because we're spending the money that we don't have. So that's why it's so important to keep our debt to a minimum, important to limit our payments. Sometimes negative things happen in our lives that are beyond our control, and fingers crossed it doesn't happen. But when you have multiple payments, like you have to pay your car off, you have to pay your credit card off, you have to pay your loans off, whatever it is, and you have all this debt and all these payments that you're making each month on that debt, let's just say, fingers crossed it doesn't happen, but you lose your job or something happens and someone gets hurt. And now you have this huge medical bill that you have to pay, or sometimes emergencies happen. You get flat tires. Now you need to replace all of your tires, your car breaks down, whatever it is, things happen. And so when you have to put that money out, or if you're not getting money in, that is going to affect all of these payments that you had and all of this debt that you're trying to pay off. You're not going to be able to. It's going to either, if it has interest, it's going to accumulate more. It's going to cause you so much stress. So limiting the amount of payments that we have, and this video is mainly focused on, again, spending only what we have and making sure that we have the money to cover whatever it is that we're buying or whatever it is that we're spending on, because things happen, and if you are living in debt, that's only going to come back later, and it's going to just cause so much other stress and other problems. So kind of going along with all of the thoughts about budgeting and spending only what we have, I want to make sure to include, it's so important to invest in yourselves and to spend on yourself. So making sure within your budget to put some money aside for you and make sure to spend on what you like and want. That is going to help you with your relationship with money, and it's also giving back a little bit to yourselves, because you are so worth it. You earned your money, you're working hard to have that money. You deserve to pay yourself back, invest in yourselves. So whether that is going to be investing in ourselves, like physically, we go get facials, we go to the chiropractor, we get massages, we invest in good products to make sure that our skin and hair and our bodies are doing well. Or if it's going to be mentally, we sign up for classes, we go to school, we learn new skills, whether it's emotionally, signing up for therapy, getting some help to work through some things, so that we can be healthier emotionally. Whatever it looks like to you, just making sure that you are putting money in to help you and to invest back in yourselves. That is a key investment, one of the biggest investments that you will ever make. Very important, and I highly recommend putting some money aside for you. Now let's get into the mindset about money, what I wish that I knew about money. So I wish I knew sooner about having an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. And that's because a scarcity mindset is what keeps you in your lack, and it's what keeps you worried about money, and it's going to affect other areas of your life and the way that you handle your money, the way that you handle people and money. Versus an abundance mindset where you believe and you know that money is going to come to you, that you can have, that there is enough money to go around, and that you have that money. You're not worried about it so much. That's going to help you later in life. And also realizing that money is just a means to an end. It's not the end itself. So money is not what's going to make you happy. It's not what's going to take all of your problems away. Money is only a means to an end, and that end being providing for you and your family. That's all money is and can do for you. Can't take your problems away. It can't make you happy. There's so many people that have a lot of money and they still have problems, whether it's health problems, emotional problems, mental problems. They still even have money problems, even though they have all of this money. They're not happy. They have family problems. You see all of these rich and famous people with lots of family problems. That's because money isn't going to take that away. It's not what's going to cause you to have a happy family, a happy life, feel good within yourself. It's only going to provide external things. That's why when we minimize the importance of money and the role that it has in our lives, that's what's actually going to make us to make better decisions. That's what's going to help us with our happiness and limiting our stress. Something I wish I knew sooner that I have learned and I'm still trying to continue learning, and it goes along with this type of abundance mindset, is to give generously. Growing up, where only one income was there to provide for the whole family, and this happens in poor, less wealthy families, what can happen is we don't learn to give generously. We don't know how to have like a generous mindset and to give our money, give gifts, give to other people. And that's because we're so worried about our own money and resources, making sure that we have what we need and what we want, that we kind of lose focus of other people and being able to give to other people. So something I've learned along the way, and I really appreciate all the people in my life, my friends and those that I've met that have had a very generous and kind soul, that don't give so much importance to their money. They honestly are big givers, and I love them for that. They have taught me how to give to other people and how to think about other people with money. And that's because knowing that whatever money you give, you'll somehow get back. And that's not the reason we give, but it's so true. If all of us paid it forward to each other, we're all going to get paid. When we start to have an abundance mindset and a more generous heart and thought towards money, that's when we're really going to also see a change in our life. And so, my friends and those who gave a lot, they give to the homeless and they give a good amount of tip when we're out at like restaurants, or even when we're just going to go get a coffee. They'll just put a little bit of money in the tip jar. And that's because to them, money isn't everything. Money isn't their life. And they're so willing and happy to give it to other people. That kind of changed my mind because I was so afraid of not having. I would withhold my money, or I only gave a little bit, the bare minimum. So I'm still learning, and I highly encourage giving to other people. It does help you feel better. It makes you a little happier, and you will get that money back. One way or another, good things will come back to you in the form of money and in other ways. It just helps each other in general. And so I highly encourage giving and having a generous mindset and spirit with your money. And another thing that needs to be said is kind of changing the hustle culture that we live in, because people are so big on hustling. And I think that the hustle culture came from employers and corporations that are trying to suck out your work and as much as your energy and effort, giving you the minimum dollar back for it. I think these are the ones that have created the hustle culture, making people believe that we have to work so hard, so many hours, put in so much effort for other people just to get back basics and the bare minimum. That is simply not true. And I think recent years have showed that there are other ways to make your money. You can make it for yourself. You can make it off of social media. You can make it off of creating other things. Look at Amazon, look at Apple, look at Microsoft, look at just being a motivational speaker. There's a lot of successful people that don't just work for other people, they work for themselves, and it doesn't feel like a lot of work. So we do need to work to earn our money. I'm not saying we don't need to work, but we can enjoy our work, and we don't need to put in as much work as we think we do just to get the bare minimum. We can put in work and receive a lot for all of the work that we do put in, and it can be meaningful and purposeful work that repays us back. As always, I hope you found this helpful, and thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Even at that, oh, my foot fell asleep again.